Welcome to TechCert Academy, your space for learning and leveling up your tech certification skills. Today, we're diving into Domain 2 of the AWS Cloud Practitioner CLF-C02 exam, Security and Compliance. I've put together a dedicated playlist where I break down every domain along with the most important exam questions. You'll find it linked in the I button and in the description. If you missed the video on Domain 1, Cloud Concepts, make sure to check that out as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Your support helps me continue creating these guides. All right, let's get into the questions. Which of the following best describes the AWS shared responsibility model? A. AWS is responsible for securing everything in the cloud. B. Customers are responsible for the physical security of data centers. C. AWS manages security of the cloud while customers manage security in the cloud. D. Customers and AWS share identical responsibilities for all services. Correct answer, C. Explanation. The AWS shared responsibility model divides security duties between AWS and its customers. AWS secures the infrastructure that runs all AWS services, including physical facilities, hardware, and foundational software. Customers, on the other hand, are responsible for securing their data, managing identities, controlling network configurations, and applying proper permissions. The degree of responsibility shifts depending on the service type. For instance, in EC2, customers manage the OS and applications. In managed services like RDS, AWS takes care of more layers. Understanding this model ensures compliance and secure cloud operations. Which responsibility remains solely with AWS under the shared responsibility model? A. Managing IAM users. B. Patching guest operating systems. C. Physical security of data centers. D. Configuring network firewalls. Correct answer, C. Explanation. AWS alone is responsible for the physical security of the infrastructure hosting AWS services. This includes data center access control, surveillance, hardware maintenance, and environmental safeguards. Customers never manage these areas. In contrast, customers are responsible for virtual security layers such as IAM management, network access control lists, ACLs, and instance-level firewalls. Understanding this division ensures that compliance audits and risk management align with AWS's service-level security guarantees. When using Amazon RDS, which security responsibility does the customer retain? A. Database software patching. B. Underlying hardware protection. C. Network access control through security groups. D. Availability of the RDS service. Correct answer, C. Explanation. For Amazon RDS, AWS manages database software patching, backups, and the underlying infrastructure. However, customers are responsible for controlling who can connect to their databases, achieved through security groups, subnet configurations, and IAM policies. The customer must also ensure proper encryption, strong password policies, and secure application access. This question highlights how shared responsibility shifts toward AWS and managed services, but still requires customer vigilance at the access and data level. Which AWS service provides on-demand access to compliance reports and certifications? A. AWS Cloud Trail. B. AWS Artifact. C. AWS Audit Manager. D. AWS Security Hub. Correct answer, B. Explanation. AWS Artifact acts as a centralized portal that provides immediate self-service access to AWS compliance documentation and AWS agreements. Users can download audit artifacts such as SOC, ISO, and PCI reports, which are essential for demonstrating compliance in regulated industries. Unlike AWS Audit Manager, which helps automate compliance assessments, AWS Artifact is a documentation repository designed for audit support and due diligence. It allows organizations to verify AWS's compliance posture across various standards easily. What is a key benefit of encryption in AWS cloud security? A. It eliminates the need for IAM policies. B. It ensures data is always stored in plain text. C. It protects data confidentiality during storage and transmission. D. It automatically backs up data across regions. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Encryption ensures that sensitive data remains unreadable to unauthorized entities, both at rest, stored in AWS services like S3, RDS, or EBS, and in transit, data moving between services or networks. AWS provides robust encryption tools such as AWS KMS for key management and TLS for data in transit. This capability enhances compliance with standards like HIPAA and GDPR and protects against breaches by rendering compromised data useless without encryption keys. Which service allows centralized auditing of AWS accounts for compliance and governance? A. AWS Config. B. Amazon CloudWatch. C. AWS Backup, D. AWS Artifact. Correct answer. A. Explanation. AWS Config tracks resource configurations and changes over time, enabling organizations to audit compliance against internal and external policies. It provides a detailed configuration history and rules engine for automated compliance checks. For example, it can flag unencrypted S3 buckets or non-compliant IAM roles. CloudWatch focuses on performance monitoring, not compliance auditing. AWS Config is indispensable for maintaining continuous governance visibility in multi-account AWS environments. Which AWS service helps detect unauthorized or malicious activity using machine learning? A. AWS Shield, B. AWS WAF, C. Amazon Guard Duty, D. AWS CloudTrail. Correct answer C. Explanation. Amazon Guard Duty is a threat detection service that continuously monitors AWS accounts, workloads, and data for anomalies. It leverages machine learning, threat intelligence, and AWS CloudTrail logs to identify suspicious activity like compromised credentials, unusual API calls, or malicious network traffic. Unlike Shield, which mitigates DDoS attacks, Guard Duty provides proactive insight into potential threats, allowing quick remediation actions and better overall cloud security posture. Which AWS service can automatically assess applications for known vulnerabilities? A. AWS Shield, B. Amazon Inspector, C. AWS Firewall Manager, D. AWS Trusted Advisor. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Amazon Inspector is a vulnerability management service that automatically scans Amazon EC2 instances and container images for known security exposures. It evaluates configurations against best practices and CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures. Inspector integrates seamlessly with AWS Security Hub for centralized reporting. By regularly scanning workloads, it helps maintain compliance and reduce potential attack surfaces. What is the main purpose of AWS Security Hub? A. To host applications securely in a VPC. B. To centralize and automate security findings from multiple services. C. To provide compliance documentation. D. To control network firewalls. Correct answer, B. Explanation. AWS Security Hub aggregates, organizes, and prioritizes security alerts findings from AWS services such as Guard Duty, Inspector, and Config. It standardizes findings using the AWS Security Finding Format, ASFF, and provides dashboards for visibility into overall security posture. By automating compliance checks against frameworks like CIS or PCI DSS, it reduces manual auditing and helps organizations maintain continuous compliance. Which of the following describes the principle of least privilege? A. Users should have access to all AWS services by default. B. Access should be restricted to only the permissions necessary to perform a task. C. Root user should be used for daily operations. D. MFA is not needed if permissions are minimal. Correct answer, B. Explanation. The principle of least privilege dictates that users, groups, and applications should be granted only the permissions necessary to complete their specific tasks, nothing more. In AWS IAM, this means crafting fine-grained policies, using roles instead of long-term credentials, and frequently reviewing access rights. Adhering to this principle reduces risks of accidental data exposure or privilege misuse, a key component of secure cloud governance. Which AWS service enables centralized management of access across multiple AWS accounts and applications? A. AWS IAM, B. AWS Directory Service, C. AWS IAM Identity Center, AWS Single Sign-On, D. AWS Organizations. Correct answer explanation. AWS IAM Identity Center, formerly AWS SSO, allows administrators to manage user identities and their permissions centrally across AWS accounts and integrated applications. It provides a single sign-on experience, reducing password fatigue and enhancing security. Users can sign in once and access multiple accounts and resources based on predefined permission sets. This service integrates tightly with AWS organizations, enabling scalable, compliant access control for enterprises operating multi-account structures. What is the most secure way to protect an AWS root user account? A. Disable the account permanently. B. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, and store credentials securely. C. Share the root credentials with administrators. D. Use the root user for daily operational tasks. Correct answer, B. Explanation. The AWS root user is the most powerful identity in an AWS account. It can perform all actions, including those that no other identity can. The best practice is to secure it with MFA, store its credentials offline in a safe location, and use it only for critical tasks like closing accounts or modifying payment settings. Routine operations should be delegated to IAM users or roles to minimize it. What is the purpose of AWS Firewall Manager? A. To manage IAM roles across accounts. B. To centrally configure and manage AWS WAF rules and security policies across multiple accounts. C. Detect account compromise using ML models. D. To store compliance reports securely. Correct answer B. Explanation. AWS Firewall Manager simplifies the centralized administration of security policies across multiple AWS accounts within an organization. It allows administrators to define and enforce AWS WAF rules, AWS Shield advanced protections, and security group configurations from a single location. This ensures that security policies remain consistent and compliant throughout all workloads. Firewall Manager is especially useful in large organizations using AWS organizations, where enforcing uniform firewall rules manually would be complex and prone to human error. It also integrates with AWS Security Hub and Config to provide a unified view of policy compliance, simplifying remediation and enforcement in multi-account architectures. Which AWS service provides recommendations for security best practices and cost optimization? A. AWS Trusted Advisor. B. AWS Shield C, AWS Config to AWS Inspector. Correct answer A. Explanation. AWS Trusted Advisor offers automated insights and recommendations for improving the efficiency, cost-effectiveness, performance, and security of your AWS environment. Its security checks help identify issues such as exposed access keys, disabled MFA, or publicly accessible resources. Trusted Advisor acts as a proactive advisor for both cost and compliance optimization, giving customers a consolidated way to enhance operational excellence and security governance. It continuously analyzes your environment in real time and aligns findings with AWS well-architected framework principles, ensuring resources are deployed securely, efficiently, and within compliance limits. Which of the following is an AWS managed key service used for encryption? A. AWS Secrets Manager. B. AWS Key Management Service, KMS. C. AWS Certificate Manager. D. AWS Config. Correct answer. Explanation. AWS Key Management Service, KMS, is a fully managed service that enables centralized creation, management, and control of encryption keys. It integrates seamlessly with AWS services like S3, EBS, and RDS, allowing users to encrypt data at rest and in transit. KMS provides strong access control using IAM policies and offers automatic key rotation for compliance. This service ensures organizations meet encryption and data protection requirements with minimal operational overhead. Additionally, KMS supports envelope encryption and customer-managed keys, enabling fine-grained control and cryptographic audit trails via CloudTrail for compliance verification. Where can customers find AWS security white papers and technical documentation? A. AWS Knowledge Center and AWS Security Blog. B. AWS Marketplace. C. AWS Organizations. D. AWS CloudFormation. Correct answer. A. Explanation. The AWS Knowledge Center and AWS Security Blog provide curated and updated security resources, including white papers, deep dive technical guides, and best practices for securing AWS workloads. These sources help organizations learn about evolving security models, compliance frameworks, and threat mitigation strategies, keeping teams informed and compliant with current standards. These materials also include architecture reference designs, case studies, and step-by-step configuration examples that help security professionals design compliant solutions. Staying informed through these channels enables businesses to anticipate new compliance trends and adapt their security posture accordingly. Which AWS service helps manage and rotate secrets such as API keys or database credentials? A. AWS KMS. B. AWS Secrets Manager. C. AWS Identity Center. D. AWS Systems Manager Session Manager. Correct answer. B. Explanation. AWS Secrets Manager is designed for securely storing and automatically rotating sensitive information like API keys, database passwords, and authentication tokens. It integrates with various AWS services, and permissions can be tightly controlled using IAM policies. Automated rotation minimizes the risk of credential leaks, while encryption with AWS KMS ensures the data's confidentiality. This service is essential for applications that handle frequent secret updates or need compliance-driven access controls. It also provides version tracking for secrets, allowing secure rollbacks and enhancing operational resilience when credentials are compromised or rotated frequently. In AWS, what is the recommended way to delegate access between accounts securely? A. Share root user credentials. B. Use IAM roles with cross-account trust policies. C. Use static access keys stored in code. D. Create duplicate IAM users in each account. Correct answer, B. Explanation. The secure method for cross-account access in AWS is through IAM roles with trust policies. One account creates a role that specifies which external account or entity is trusted to assume it. This approach eliminates the need for sharing long-term credentials or creating redundant users. It also allows for temporary security tokens and tightly scoped permissions, ensuring least privilege access while maintaining auditability. This design also integrates with AWS STS security token service for session-based access and enables federated identity providers to manage cross-account authentication dynamically and securely. Which AWS service allows you to visualize compliance across multiple frameworks like CIS or PCI DSS? A. AWS Security Hub. B. AWS Config. C. AWS Trusted Advisor. D. AWS Artifact. Correct answer, A. Explanation. AWS Security Hub provides a unified view of security posture and compliance across AWS accounts. It integrates findings from AWS services and maps them against industry-standard frameworks such as CIS, AWS Foundations Benchmark, PCI DSS, and ISO 27001. Security Hub automatically generates reports that highlight compliance gaps, helping organizations quickly identify and address misconfigurations or violations before audits occur. It also normalizes findings using AWS Security Finding Format, ASFF, allowing seamless integration with CM tools and automation workflows for continuous compliance monitoring. What is the main function of AWS WAF? A. To detect malware. B. To protect web applications from common exploits like SQL injection and XSS. C. To encrypt web traffic using SSL. D. To provide DDoS protection at the network layer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. AWS Web Application Firewall protects web applications by filtering and monitoring HTTP and HTTPS requests. It blocks malicious traffic such as SQL injection or cross-site scripting, XSS attacks using customizable rules and managed rule groups. WAF integrates with services like Amazon CloudFront API Gateway and Application Load Balancer, providing flexible Layer 7 protection for scalable web applications. It also allows fine-tuned rule customization, rate limiting, and bot control, enabling real-time mitigation against application-level exploits while maintaining application performance and availability. What AWS tool can show configuration drift between your current resources and your compliance baseline? A. AWS Config. B. AWS Trusted Advisor. C. AWS CloudTrail. D. AWS Security Hub. Correct answer, A. Explanation. AWS Config continuously tracks and evaluates the configuration of AWS resources, detecting any drift from the desired or approved state. It captures configuration snapshots, enables historical tracking, and alerts administrators when changes break compliance rules. Config plays a vital role in maintaining operational integrity and supporting audits through consistent configuration monitoring. It can also automate remediation by invoking Lambda functions when non-compliant configurations are detected, ensuring security baselines remain enforced automatically without manual intervention. What best describes AWS's role under the shared responsibility model for Amazon EC2? A. AWS secures everything, including the OS and applications. B. AWS secures the hardware, networking, and virtualization layers. C. AWS only manages user data. D. AWS handles IAM configuration for instances. Correct answer, B. Explanation. For Amazon EC2, AWS secures the underlying layers, the physical infrastructure, networking, storage, and hypervisor. Customers are responsible for managing the guest operating system, applying patches, and configuring firewalls and IAM policies. This balance provides flexibility while ensuring a trusted and compliant foundation for compute workloads. AWS ensures hardware isolation and availability, while customers must handle endpoint protection, OS updates, and access control configurations to meet compliance and security standards. Which AWS service provides encryption key lifecycle management and policy enforcement? A. AWS Secrets Manager. B. AWS Key Management Service, KMS. C. AWS Certificate Manager. D. AWS Identity Center. Correct answer, B. Explanation. AWS KMS allows centralized lifecycle management of encryption keys, including key creation, rotation, access control, and deletion. Administrators can define IAM policies that dictate how keys are used and by whom. This ensures compliance with internal governance policies and external security standards. KMS also integrates with CloudTrail to log all key usage for auditability. The service supports automatic key rotation and customer-managed key policies, which make it easier to align with compliance frameworks such as PCI DSS, FedRAMP, and HIPAA. Which feature of AWS IAM helps prevent accidental privilege escalation? A. Managed policies. B. IAM groups. C. Policy boundaries. D. Access keys. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Policies define the maximum permissions a user or role can have, regardless of other policies attached. This prevents entities from inadvertently gaining higher privileges than intended. It's particularly useful in large teams or federated environments where delegated administrators create roles or policies but must remain within strict security constraints. Combined with permission boundaries and service control policies, SCPs, in AWS organizations, this feature helps implement layered access control to reduce risk of privilege abuse. Which AWS service can identify open S3 buckets or exposed IAM keys? A. AWS Guard Duty. B. AWS Trusted Advisor. C. AWS Config D. AWS Security Hub. Correct answer, B. Explanation. AWS Trusted Advisor continuously scans your environment and flags common misconfigurations, including public S3 buckets, unencrypted data, and exposed IAM credentials. By providing proactive recommendations, it helps maintain compliance and prevent data leaks or access control issues before they escalate into breaches. Trusted Advisor's security checks also support compliance efforts by identifying gaps that could violate frameworks like ISO 27001 or SOC 2. It's a key preventive layer in AWS governance. Which AWS service can continuously detect and classify sensitive data stored in S3 buckets? A. AWS Config. B. Amazon Macie. C. AWS Guard Duty. D. AWS Security Hub. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Amazon Macie uses machine learning to identify and classify sensitive data such as personally identifiable information, PII, in S3 buckets. It provides alerts when data is exposed publicly or violates compliance rules. Macie helps organizations meet privacy obligations under frameworks like GDPR, HIPAA, and CCPA by enabling continuous visibility into data security posture. It also integrates with Security Hub and EventBridge, allowing automated remediation and reporting, which enhances long-term governance and regulatory compliance readiness. What AWS feature allows customers to monitor resource utilization and set alarms for unusual activity? A. AWS CloudTrail. B. Amazon CloudWatch. C. AWS Config. D. AWS Security Hub. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Amazon CloudWatch monitors AWS resources and applications by collecting and analyzing metrics, logs, and events. It can trigger alarms for anomalous behaviors such as unexpected spikes in traffic or CPU usage, which might indicate a security or performance issue. Integrating CloudWatch with CloudTrail or Guard Duty enhances real-time threat detection and operational awareness. It also supports automated actions through EventBridge or Lambda, enabling instant responses to anomalies and reducing potential impact from misconfigurations or attacks.